Singles Only Podcast Time. I'm Paul Farahvar, your host. This week's episode features the very married Dayna Pereira from That Trophy Wife Life podcast and Dirty Little Secrets Club. Very fun episode. Learn a lot about the other side of things. You know, we do this every once in a while in Singles Only. I will have a non-single guest on the show, and this one was done via Zoom. So if you're listening, you can go check it out online at my website, YouTube, or not my website, on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Paul F Comedy. All my upcoming dates are at paulfcomedy.com. Check them out. Subscribe, review, like this podcast, tell your friends, share it. Check out our sponsors as well. Hey, all, you guys know that I used to be a lawyer. Still am, but, you know, kind of just in the background, if you will. But my friend, Scott Shapiro, he is a full-time lawyer. You guys maybe have injured on the job, need compensation, or you're just injured somewhere and you don't know what to do. You're entitled to way more money than you think you are sometimes. Not always, but most of the time. And my friend, attorney Scott Shapiro, has been helping people for over 20 years in this regard. If you've been injured, give him a call, 312-648-8800, or email him at scott@scottshapirolegal.com. He's a full-service law firm, so in addition to doing workers' comp cases, PI cases, he also handles all legal needs, including entertainment law. That's right, he's an entertainment lawyer. He's worked on a lot of musicians' cases, a lot of contracts, negotiations, and reviews of contracts for your needs, whether you're a comedian, musician, all that good stuff. All his consultations are free of charge initially. So don't take a chance and wait. Call him, 312-648-8800, or check out his website, scottshapirolegal.com. Call him today. Tell him I sent you. You will not regret it. It's time for another edition of Singles Only Podcast. My name is Paul Farahvar. I am your host. We're doing this episode via Zoom. So if you're listening right now, you can go over to my website at youtube.com/Paul F Comedy and watch along as the show proceeds. We're going to get right into it. I have comedian and host of That Trophy Wife Life and Dirty Little Secrets Club, Dayna Pereira.
Hey!
Word. Hey, Dayna, thank you for joining me from San Diego.
Yeah, no worries.
You are a host, and so this show, as people know, it's typically for single guests, singles only, hence the name. But we make an exception every once in a while since we've done over 200 episodes, and well, at some point we got to give other people a chance. And you have the Trophy Wife Life podcast. So I figure you can best defend this institution of marriage.
Well, I mean, you never know. I might end up single at some point in my life again. I used to be single, you know, so I have some single ideas occasionally. Yeah. But right now I got the old ball and chain. So
right. So why marriage? Why is this such a good thing, Dayna? Tell us. Sell it to me.
Mostly because I get half of his shit is why I really like marriage. When we took our vows, I said, you know, like what's yours is mine and what's mine is mine. Nice. And he agreed to that. So, I mean,
got a good
mostly,
deal.
Yeah, probably because I didn't have anything. So, yeah.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
I always tell people like, or all my friends who are married say, if you don't want to have kids, don't get married because it's a lot of work. What say you, Dayna?
Well, I feel like true, it is a lot of work, but aren't all relationships a lot of work? I mean, let's even take like your fucking mother, for example, you know, like that's a shit ton of work to maintain a healthy relationship with your mother or your friends or, you know, dog or coworkers. Like you have to be able to maintain relationships, and they all take work. So if you don't want to put work into a relationship, pretty much going to be like sitting on your couch, eating Cheetos, living the dream. So yeah, I absolutely suggest you just throw people away and just sit on your couch.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a certain point in a relationship where, you know, like I always say, like, when you're in a relationship, there's a honeymoon phase, right? Where
Mhm.
everything is happy. You have a couple spats here and there, but like years of marriage to the same person, it just seems like an outdated institution to me.
I can see how that could be. I, I actually wonder about it a lot because I watch or I host the Dirty Little Secrets Club, and we have people anonymously submit their dirty little secrets. And of course, infidelity is like all the way at the top,
Right,
right?
right.
And so you have to wonder, like, are we supposed to be in relationships with people
No.
for long periods of time? Or, is our monkey brain supposed to just hump across the country? Like, I humped my way through my 20s. Am I supposed to stop that all of a sudden? Apparently, for marriage, you are.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, like, we're taught that this is the institution of and monogamy is natural, but it's not. There's sociologists that prove that's not the case. And
Yeah.
so, if you take the pressure off traditional marriage, we've updated marriage to allow gays to get married. We have all kinds of updates, but the one part that always stays is till death do us part. Well, no, that puts an undue amount of stress on a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Like a friendship, like you said, it's a lot of work, or whatever other relationships you have. Maybe not your mother, because that is death ends that relationship. But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
your friends, that you can walk away from a relationship and not have to worry about paying alimony or the stress of a divorce, which they say is the most stressful thing other than death.
I could imagine. I mean, I feel like for me in my relationship with my husband, I feel very free to do whatever I want. I don't feel like locked down by marriage, like I'm not wanting to go out and hump around and
Hmm.
and do any of that.
Right.
But I can see how some people might feel like trapped in a relationship. And I think that has a lot to do with control. So many people want to control another person.
Hmm.
And, like that doesn't work. People don't want to be controlled. And that's, how a lot of marriages fail. I don't want to control my husband. I always say I can only control myself, can only control my mood, how I respond to things. I can't control somebody else. And I don't want to control somebody else.
Right. Well, I mean, you say this whole thing about humping, but I also think that there's ways of you being, well, there's also ways of being unfair in a relationship, at least if you go by traditional marriage, where I know people who have like their work husband or their work wife or
Mhm.
whatever, and they confide in that person more than they confide in their husbands and wives. Isn't that some sort of like betrayal, just as if, like, you hump somebody, for lack of a better
For
example?
sure. For sure. Yeah, that is. But then again, so like on the flip side of that, I have a lot of friends that I talk to. I have my friend Samir, who is a man that I, speak to on a regular basis. My friend AJ that I speak to on a regular basis. And my husband isn't like worried that I'm
Right.
emotionally involved with these people. And, the same with my husband. He has a couple of girlfriends that he's really close with. And I just, don't question that. I think that jealousy is something in relationships that really tends to end them because
Hmm.
you end up getting jealous, and then it's that whole control thing again. Like you want to control who they're talking to, what they're doing, when they're doing it. Like you need to pay attention to me all the time. And I think that my marriage works out because neither of us are that needy in our
Right.
relationship. We genuinely enjoy sitting down and hanging out with each other. And then whenever I'm annoyed with him, I'm like, can you please piss off and go hang with your friends? Like,
Yeah.
can you call your buddy up, go get a beer, will ya? Like, I need some space.
Yeah, sure. What about during the pandemic, though, where you guys didn't really have a lot of space, right? Because you were trapped together.
We were trapped together. I mean, luckily, we have a really nice outdoor space. So we, like if he wanted to watch, like, for example, he was very into The Mandalorian.
Hmm.
I was very not into The Mandalorian. Like I
Right.
didn't have any interest in watching that shit at all. So he would go outside and turn it on the TV outside. And then I'd be inside watching, whatever trash TV I wanted to watch. And
Hmm.
he also, luckily, he owns a construction company, and construction was an essential business. that actually was booming during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So he was gone a lot. He was working the entire time. So I had, all day in the house where it was just me having time with myself and my children. And, he was out working, and then he'd come home and would sit down, have a glass of wine, make dinner, and watch a TV show before he had to hit the sack again, because he had to wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning.
Right. Well, that's also, then you didn't really have the pandemic experience that a lot of marriages that didn't survive had. So
yeah.
You're lucky.
I like to think that even if we had to spend all day with each other, that we would have been good.
Okay.
But I cannot confirm that is what would have happened.
That's fair assessment.
Yeah.
Had either you or your husband been married before? Or is this
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. My husband was married. Whenever I met him, actually, I had no idea that he was married. I kept seeing him out at this bar, and I was like, God, he's so hot. And I would like follow him with my boobs and be like, look at me, look at him. He wouldn't look at me. And I was like, is he gay? Why won't he look at me? Turns out he was married.
Fair. Okay. That's funny.
Okay. And then the day that he actually ended his marriage with her, like when they finally decided that they were going to move forward with the divorce, he was like, is this it? Are we done? Are we over? And she said yes. And he walked over and asked me to dance, and been with him 11 years now.
That's crazy. So that's good that you guys, well, I think, see, like, your situation is a little more ideal than the traditional marriage of middle America, the flyover states where they get married when they're 22. And there's no personal growth. You just kind of grow together to mesh into one human species in a way.
Yeah.
But like, you guys had your own lives for a while. You were both when you're after 25 is when you're a fully formed human, in my opinion. And so you had a few years before you guys got together and figured out that you wanted to be together forever.
Yeah. And well, so that's another interesting thing. He wasn't sure that he wanted to get married, and I was sure. I had 2 small children whenever I met him. So my children were, I think, 3 and 4 whenever we met. And for me, marriage, and I wanted more babies. I was always adamant that I wanted more babies. I had 2 boys. I really wanted a girl. Like, I knew that was something that I wanted in my life. And 4.5 years into dating, he still wasn't pulling the trigger. And I was like, okay, look, bro, shit or get off the pot. Like, you're going to have to make the decision. Do you want to get married? Do you not want to get married? And he couldn't tell me. And I was like, all right, that's fine. I'm not mad about it, but I am going to peace out on you, because I'm not going to like sit around and wait for you. And so I did. I left, and I think maybe a month later, he was like, no, I was just kidding. I do want to get married.
The ultimatum worked. Nice.
It did. But I think that the reason that it worked, though, was because I wasn't pressuring him so hard. I was just like, yo, I wasn't making him feel guilty about it. I wasn't like, you don't love me or anything like that. I was just like, these are the things that I want in my life. And if you don't match these things that I want in my life, then, let's go our separate ways.
Yeah.
And, it turns out he thought about it for a little while, and then I strapped the old ball and chain on him. So.
And do you have more kids now?
We had 2 children together. Yes.
You have 4 kids now. Wow. Okay.
I do. Yeah. Might as well be 1,000. It's a lot of kids.
and he didn't have any kids then in his Okay. So you have 4 kids. But why? So you already had 2 kids when you got married. Why did you want to have marriage? Or was it for you, or was it for your kids to have someone else in their lives, or some other reason?
I don't know.
You just wanted more kids.
Well, I definitely wanted more kids. We actually had my daughter before we walked down the aisle.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's something that's like beat into your head where, you're like, oh, well, this is just what you're supposed to do. You go to kindergarten, and
It
then you go
is.
up through elementary school, and then you go to high school, and then you go
Yeah.
to college, and then you meet whoever, and then you get married, and you get a nice job. And, like there's like steps along the way of what is like appropriate or what you're supposed to do. And I think that it's beat into our heads so much
Absolutely.
that, I guess I just ended up wanting that. I look back on it now and I think I didn't need to be married to my husband. We could have definitely just lived together and, had our babies, and I didn't need to have that piece of paper, but for some reason it felt good to get that piece of paper saying that,
Sure.
he's mine and I'm his. And, and if you try and leave me, I get half of everything.
You've said that a few times, so I think that's going to scare the shit out of him.
Oh yeah. No, he already knows. He knows. Yeah.
You didn't try to push a prenup?
No.
That's good.
Actually, I was kind of surprised by that. To like protect his company and stuff like that. But honestly, we have children together, and he sees me with my ex. My ex and I are very close. We're good friends. We're not, vindictive people. So I'm never going to try and screw somebody just for the hell of it.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband knows that. Like,
That's good.
we have kids together. I want them to grow up feeling loved by everybody and never to feel like they're like put against a parent or each other or, anything like that. So yeah, I don't ever walk the vindictive route.
That's good. Do you have you always you said you mentioned your prior relationship. How long was that relationship with your ex?
Him and I were together for 5 years.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Where did
It was a long time.
You said that you did all this humping in your 20s, but how did you
It
have
was
time?
after him, but before the other one. I made it into a very small window.
Okay.
But I had my fun though.
How old were you when you were with your ex? Like was this when high school?
I was 21.
Okay.
20, turning
Okay.
21, I think.
So your brain wasn't formed yet. No offense. None of ours.
No, absolutely. Frontal lobe had not been developed yet.
Right.
No.
So you got out of that relationship and then you just started, sowing your oats, I guess is how they would say it
Sure.
on the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
Okay.
I sowed some oats.
Were you in long-term relationships again? When I say long-term, I mean like over 6 months in between your ex and your current husband?
I kind of.
Okay.
I did, like whenever him and I broke up, I did get back together with an ex-boyfriend from before that for a few months.
Before you were 21, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. It's a lot of math in this podcast.
I know.
Okay.
I know. But I saw him with my boys when they were little, and I think my youngest was 1 at the time. And he got kind of like controlling, like he yelled at him, and I was like, nope, can't do that. I'm out of here.
The XX?
Yeah.
From 21 before 21. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up, Dayna?
Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. You're kind of Midwest-ish, I guess.
Yeah.
And how did you end up in San Diego?
So I ended up in San Diego because somebody had mentioned that they were moving to San Diego. And I was like, well, that sounds warm. Sure, I'll go. Flew across the country, stayed in a hotel, convinced my friend to move out a couple of weeks later. She flew across the country.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was I was 19 at the time. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to do this. And so I did it because that was when I had the balls to do it.
Okay. So you were 19 when you moved to San Diego, and all these exes and all this activity that you allegedly partook in was all in San Diego?
No. I had some fun before I met. Yeah, I had some fun in Pittsburgh. And then I've had fun all over.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why let me ask you this. Do you think you'll ever get to a point in your marriage where you guys will need to do something different to keep the marriage going? Whether it's
Hmm.
I mean, you guys have been together for quite some time now. I mean, 11, that's a lifetime
It is a
for a
long
relationship.
time, and you know, I think that it works well with us because we are both pretty adventurous. So,
Okay.
I mean, right now we have kids and, you know, that's a lot. So we don't get to vacation as much as we used to. But him and I mean, we've done a lot together.
Okay.
You know, we were in Costa Rica and we were waterfall repelling and, you know, like I think our next big trip together is going to Italy and we're both really big on food and really big on wine. And I mean, my favorite thing that I can do with my husband now is we go out on date nights and I'm like, ooh, this looks good. And this looks good. And this looks good. We end up ordering like 7 appetizers and then, you know, our meals. And then we switch plates halfway in between because we both love everything and want to eat
Sure.
everything. So I'm like, man, this is great. Marriage is awesome because I get to eat half of his food too.
Do you guys think you'll ever get to the point where you have to like, I don't even know if this is, do people like still do swinger parties and shit like that? Or is that like only old people that do it?
I don't
I don't know.
know. We've never been to a swinger party.
Okay.
You know, I'm not big on sharing. I don't think that I would want to see him with anyone else. But then again, I don't know what's going to happen in our relationship. And
Sure.
also because I love my husband and I like to keep the communication open. And so if my husband came to me and said like, "Listen, I feel like something is missing right now. I really want to try this or that." I like to think that I'd keep an open mind with
That's
it.
good. Yeah. I
Um,
think,
you know, because I can't just be closed-minded about it in a relationship that has two
right.
people.
And how long was he in a relationship? How long was he married for before you guys were together?
I think it was 2 years that
Oh,
he was
wow. Okay.
married. Yeah.
That's not really a marriage. That's like a starter marriage.
Yeah. It
It's
was
like
his
a,
practice marriage.
yeah, it's a practice. 11 years. You guys have lasted a long, long time here. So
Yeah.
what do you think it is that keeps the marriage going and will want that you think that you can talk people into getting married? Like what is it that you that 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 makes you see you guys adventurous, you guys do all this stuff. How is it what about people who don't have that option? How do you keep it alive?
Well, I mean, I feel like first and foremost, you got to like not try and change people. I think a lot of marriages fail because they go in thinking like, "Oh, I can save him," or you know, something like that. No, people that don't let the other person be them actual selves.
Mhm.
And so I think a lot of that, like I'm a very flamboyant person. I'm in your face, I'm loud. And my husband is very quiet and he's always just like, yeah, go do your thing. You know, like he never ever makes me feel weird about it. A couple of my past relationships have made me feel like, oh, you're too friendly or you talk to too many
Mhm.
people or you do too many. Then I'm like, yeah, but that's just who I am, you know? So I think that as long as you have somebody that you're not trying to change, that you genuinely enjoy spending time with, and you have very open communication and a very open mind, because you cannot expect another person to think the exact same way that you do.
Right. And
And I think, you know, communication is key.
yeah, that is the key to every relationship, like you said before. What is it that you learned when you said you saw your husband at this bar and you thought he was gay because he wasn't hitting on you or he wasn't
Yeah.
giving any vibes back? You put your boobs in his face.
Uh huh.
What is it that was it just the initial physical attraction that drew you to him?
I love a man that can cut a rug. And we were at a country bar, and I really loved a two step. I really love, you know, partner dancing, and I really love line dancing. And my man can cut a rug. It was just so fun to go around the dance floor with him and to watch him, you know, dance with other people. It was just fun, you know, and that was something that I thought was so hot was just like watching him dance. I was like, God, you're so, because if you got rhythm, that means that you're probably pretty good in the sack too. If
Fair.
you can
I
dance,
I agree
you're
with
probably
that.
good at the other stuff too.
Okay, that's a good analogy. And what is it where if you were like to line up, was that the same thing that attracted to you when you were younger too, when you would meet people? Like, is it the dancing that would?
No, it was always a physical attraction first. It was always like, are you hot? And at that point in my life, I wasn't looking for somebody to like stimulate my brain or anything
Right.
like that. I was like, I want you to stimulate one thing and it's in the bedroom and that's it. And so, but I had to be physically attracted to you? So it was always physical attraction first.
Sure.
And then the rest of it follows.
What's the rest of it? What's the rest of it?
Like if you want to go out on a date with them, if they're a
Fair enough.
good person, if they're, funny or if they're assholes or,
Yeah.
like you kind of figure out the rest of that as time goes on, but it's always physical attraction is the immediate like thing.
And in high school, were you always dating like the jocks and stuff then, or what was your?
I
I
was
see
such
you
a
as like
I
you were a
didn't
nerd.
well, okay,
I was just gonna say you were a cheerleader of some sort.
I did do cheerleading whenever I was in like 7th through
Okay.
ninth grade.
Okay.
And then after that, I moved high schools. And whenever I moved high schools, it was very difficult to break into the popular crowd, I guess.
Sure.
And also because of the area I lived in. So my father lived it's called Sharpsburg in Pittsburgh. And it was kind of like the ghetto of our school district.
Okay.
And so moving into this other high school, when people would ask me where I was from and I'd say Sharpsburg, they would be like, oh, because it was a very snooty kind of school.
Okay.
And it had like a lot of very rich kids, but I was not one of those very rich kids. And so, I hung out with the Sharpsburg crowd because I couldn't break into the other crowd.
Okay. How far were the towns apart?
What do you mean from the
Like,
one
was
that
it the same? Yeah, the one that you were from before.
so we were about 20 minutes apart.
Okay.
So my mother lived in one town and I lived with her until I was in 10th grade. And in 10th grade, I decided to move in with my dad. And whenever I did
Okay.
that, it was a whole different high school experience.
So when did your parents separate? How old were you when that happened?
I was
Oh,
2.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. And that actually really molded the way that I am with my
I was
husband
just gonna
and
say
with
that. Yeah.
my ex because my parents hated each other. Like my mom was if I came home and said like, oh, I had the best time at dad's, he took me fishing and we, did this, she would go, what did you eat for lunch? And I'd say, and she'd go, let me guess, soup and a sandwich. Because every time my dad would feed me soup and a sandwich, but I loved soup and a sandwich.
Right.
Soup and a sandwich was fucking great for me.
Especially when you're a kid. Yeah.
And she would kind of like talk down about it. Oh, just live off soup and a sandwich. And I was like, yeah, well, at least I fucking ate,
Right.
like
Right.
who cares? And I always felt like that pressure. So I never did that with my exes or, with my children. My children come home and tell me, oh my God, dad took us fishing and we did this. I'm like, that's fucking awesome. I'm so glad you had a great time. Because I never want them to feel guilty for loving their other parent,
Right. That's good. And were you the only child then?
No, I come from a very large family. So,
Okay.
between my mother and my father, they had 2 kids. So me and my
Okay.
sister. But
Okay.
my dad had 3 kids before he was a whole adult person older than my mother. So
Okay.
he had a family with 3 kids. And then when they got divorced and he met my mom and he had me and my sister, and then they got divorced. My mom remarried, had 2 more kids, and he remarried. And
Wow.
I have my stepsister. So yeah, there's a lot of
That's a
us.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So going back to high school then, your sister's older than you, I take it?
My
You're
sister with my dad, my mom
Yeah.
and my dad, she's 1 year younger than me.
Oh, so she was 1 so you were 2 and 1 when you guys got to, oh wow, that's so
Yeah.
young. Okay. And then you guys moved. So in high school then, when you were at the new school with all the snoots, were you like were guys at least hitting on you? Were you attractive yet, or were you kind of like awkward?
I mean, yeah, a little bit, but I was so insecure because of my upbringing that I never really leaned into it. I didn't have my first boyfriend until I was, 19. I think I had
Oh
my first
wow.
boyfriend. Yeah.
When did you lose your virginity then?
I was a month away from turning 18 whenever I lost my
Okay.
virginity.
Okay.
And it was with a boy. It was with a boy who I had the biggest crush on, and I invited him over to my friend's house, and he came over, and I lost my virginity. I didn't know that he was also losing his virginity at the same time. And he panicked afterward and just like stopped talking to me, just like ghosted me. And I was traumatized. And then a month later, because we worked in the same mall, so I would see him all the time because I was in a kiosk in the middle of the mall and his store was like right there. So I saw him constantly and he would just ignore me. And so finally I like went in and I was like, what the hell? Why are you ignoring me?
Yeah.
And we ended up really good friends. I was I'm still friends with him.
Oh, that's awesome. No more sex after the first time though?
No more sex. He tried one more time after that. And I was like, no, bro, not going to happen.
Aw, poor guy.
Yeah.
So you didn't have your first boyfriend until you were 19.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, where were you then?
San Diego.
Okay, you were already in San Diego. So wow,
Mm-hmm.
this is a convoluted web that we're finding that's drawn you to become this trophy wife. So
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, but that's everybody's upbringing, right? Like everybody goes through shit, and that is how you come out the other side. And then you get to decide like, okay, am I going to learn from these past mistakes? Am I going to let them define me, or am I going to grow from them?
Right. And you've decided to grow.
Absolutely. Yeah. And continuously grow. I know I'm going to keep fucking up. I'm only 39. I have a whole lot of living left to do, and I'm going to fuck up for the rest of my life. But, you just keep growing from them.
Sure. And why do you think that you can still grow? Why do you think you're going to still fuck up? Like, what is there? I feel like you've done everything.
Yeah, but you're still new at stuff. So like whenever it comes to parenting, sometimes I lose my shit and I have to go and be like, yo, listen, real sorry about that. Something triggered me and I apologize. I'll try and do better. But, but we all have our days. We have bad days. We have hormones. We have, I have menopause to go through. I am terrified of when that shit happens.
Sure. It's going to be scary.
I can't say that I'm not going to fuck up, because odds are, I'm going to have a bad day at some point, and I might lose it on somebody, or, I might not be the best version of myself that day, or maybe I try something new. Maybe I, decide I'm going to be an actress or something. And, so you're going to fuck up at that, because anytime you try something new, you're going to screw it up a few hundred times before you get it right. And I don't know what life has in store for me just yet, so.
Well, it sounds like you have a good balance of personal growth and growing with your husband. You guys have created a good life for yourselves, and it seems like you're doing what you want to do on the side with your creative process, making content, and he's making houses or buildings, so it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's great.
He's doing the real stuff, and you and I are just creating content to make people laugh, allegedly. So.
And the fact that he's like, go, like he's my biggest cheerleader. He wears trophy husband shirts all the time. It's my favorite.
That's awesome. Well, Dayna, you didn't convince me that marriage is a good institution, but it seems to work for you.
I'm still not convinced it is for everybody, but for me, it works out pretty well.
That's awesome. Well, Dayna, thanks for coming on the show. We're out of time. How can people find out more about that Trophy Wife Life and Dirty Little Secrets Club?
Sure. Yeah. They both have their own website. You can go to thattrophywifelife.com, and then it's also the dirtylittlesecretsclub.com. You can find us on YouTube, and we're also on all of the podcast platforms. And if you want to find me, I have all of my stuff out there. I'm on Instagram, and it's at TrophyWifeDayna, and Dayna is spelled Dayna.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dayna, for joining us on this podcast. And thank you all for listening to another edition of Singles Only Podcast.